Speaking of World War II, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reports that of the 16 million Americans who served in that war, less than 500,000 are still living. So if you know one, take some time to visit with them and learn firsthand what that war was like. Now, I did that with my cousin Wes Byrd, who lives over in Brandon. He was in the South Pacific on a destroyer in the war, and being in a war as a teenager can't help but shade your life for the rest of your life. Take a look. There's a flagpole in his front yard, only flagpole on the block, probably the only flagpole in the neighborhood. Inside his house, he has memorabilia of his years in the Navy, yard-long photos of his ship and the crew, other items he keeps under glass in his home office. About the time most kids are thinking about moving into their senior year of high school, my cousin Wes went to war.
I was 17 and a half years old.
What made you enlist at that age?
Well, I knew I was going to be drafted in 6 months, so I wanted to join the Navy, and I wanted to be sure where I went. So,
and where he went was to be part of a gun crew on the USS Wadley.
I was on a destroyer, and we were sent out up to 100 miles away from the fleet to in perimeter of the fleet, whole fleet, and we give them early warning when the planes started coming in. And, of course, they were trying to knock us out, too. So
there was enough action to go around where Wes was. Attacks on the fleet from the air and from the islands they were in the process of capturing.
You wasn't afraid till after it was over with, you know. You got up and you did your duty, did what you were trained to do. But your adrenaline was so high that you didn't know anything about it till it was over with. But it was devastating to see some of these ships hit.
Wes stayed in for 4 years. Now, there's a lot of growing up that goes on from ages 17 to 21 for anybody. Graduation, figuring out what to do with your life, figuring out what life's all about. But throw a war in during those years, and maturity escalates.
That, like I told a lady not long ago, she asked me the question, how old I was when I went in the Navy. I said 17 and a half. And I was 34 when I come out. And she looked at me, she said, no, you stayed 4 years. I said, well, right at 4 years. She said, no, that don't equate, you know. I said, well, you left one thing out of that equation. There was a lot of hot lead going by to make you age quite frequently and quite often.
Well, that accelerated maturity and then coming home and marrying and having a family and living a quote-unquote normal life afterwards leaves a lot of observations and questions at this end of his life. Realizing he's seen and experienced things the majority of us haven't and never will, Wes, in hindsight, reflects on the war and attitudes then and now.
Well, it was necessary. I mean, that was a fact. And back then, the people were proud of this country, and they didn't want to see anything happen to it. Today, the people seem too divided. We left too many men laying over in the bottom of the ocean and on land too to help people feel like that. They gave too much. And like I told people, I said, that red stripe and that flag means blood. It don't mean freedom. It means freedom after you shed your blood. So, and we're fast losing if we don't wake up.
So he's the only guy with a flagpole in his yard in his neighborhood. And if you sit down to talk to him a few minutes, you'll discover it's more than just yard art to him. He lived a decade in 4 years, doing his part to make sure the right flag is the one still flying atop that pole. And here in the state of Mississippi, World War II vets make up less than 10% of the veteran population. Numbers like that make stories like that one even more precious and worthwhile.